You are in for an interesting ride.
Hello and welcome to another ETN Files interview, and this one is with HILARY PORTER, who runs BEAMS, that's a British Earth and Aerial Mysteries Society, along with her partner, also on the Eklectia album, Ken Parsons. This interview was recorded in 2020. It is something of a supplementary interview because I can't believe it's 2013 was when I first interviewed HILARY. So we will hear one or two new interesting updates and also have a look at the fact that her mother, who only was able to confess in about 2011 that she too had some ET experiences, at least of seeing her, HILARY, her daughter, taken, and that HILARY too had that same experience with her daughter Sally. And what's interesting about Sally is that she is severely autistic and has been taken on more than one occasion, which HILARY has sometimes been witness to. Fascinating too is the fact that Sally became severely autistic as a result of the MMR jab. So we welcome HILARY Porter. I hope you enjoy it. And your base is here also in Farnborough?
Farnborough, yeah. And yes, he helped me when I was very scarred from the abductions and things to actually go and talk about it.
HILARY's baptism photograph, and this is HILARY here. And here we have an image of something in the picture beginning to form. And if you look at this lady's hand here, it follows on to that other photograph you've just seen, as if the spirit, or whatever that energy force is, could be alien, we don't know, is beginning to manifest. And we can also see back to this one, that little HILARY there is looking the form that is manifesting. Perhaps you could tell us, because you were taken right from babyhood, what your mother actually had to tell you about that.
And mother was put into a comatose state, which she was petrified, and she would scream and no one could hear her, and she knew something was happening to me, I was being taken, and she could do nothing to prevent this. And I always had this disjointed thing. She said, there is something I need to tell you because it doesn't gel, does it? And I said, no, it doesn't. And where was my mummy? Where was she? I needed her the most. And I've always wondered where you were. And she said, well, now I can tell you. She said, it's scaring the hell out of me, but I will tell you. And she told me what was happening to her.
Quite traumatic for her.
Again, yes, it really was. Yeah, I felt poor mum.
Yeah.
Well, from a tiny child, she didn't know about the bedroom visitors because I wouldn't know how to explain it anyway. And they used to materialise through the wall, my bedroom, figures in robes, and they would seem to walk across and then through the next wall, as it were. And I couldn't work out what on earth was going on at 2 years old.
At 2 years old, did they seem like people to
Yes,
you?
they did. They seemed a bit like perhaps biblical figures. And then just from time to time, they would turn the wall in my bedroom like into a cinema screen, and you would see images, strange things. You weren't sure quite what it was because you were too young. So I don't know what they think our little brains are able to cope with. Then one day they started to introduce this ball thing that they brought in with them. It floated, but they could sort of, with their arms, they could make it sort of, go up and down and change colour, and then they sort of like, so I put my hand out, and yes, and I could make it do that. And I got the feeling they were perhaps trying to educate me into using my mind in some way, because I'm so tiny. But then I do think I do think I am different in many ways, really.
Who was it that was showing you these things?
These figures, and then they would just move back into darkness, and that was it. And then Mum said I had Manny Man, who she thought was real to me because I'd spend hours sitting on the garden step talking with him, and she thought I'm sure she can see who it is she's talking with, but she couldn't say.
Do you remember
I have no
any of the
recall.
conversations? No.
And they've taken all recall of when I went missing in the garden, because that started, and they'd shorn the garden up, my parents, so I couldn't get out, but somehow I was out, I was gone, but then Mother was put into this state again where she couldn't move.
What sort of age would you have been at this time, Hilary?
About 2.5. And then she'd have to get on her bike and cycle all around the street. Well, I was found in a place that's still there today, in Cove in Farnborough, called Farnborough. It's another housing estate they made for the Air Force men that worked on the airfield at Farnborough, the Royal Airforce Establishment.
Really interesting in the Times, because we've got lots about contactees as adults around this time in America, like George Van Tassel and George Adamski and that. But we don't hear about the children much at all.
No.
Hilary's abduction experiences began, as her mother recalled, when Hilary was just a babe in the crib. This is Hilary's recounting of what her mother told her during the ETN 2020 interview.
You can't move, you're aware of what's going on, you can't scream, you can't do anything. The baby's being taken, and then she's put out altogether, she doesn't remember anymore. And then when she comes round, where's my baby? Luckily enough, I'm usually put back in the little crib, and this is how it started. And then it goes on till I'm about 2 or 3. I mean, when I was a baby, still upstairs. She said she'd put me in a cot. She'd hear a bonk on the floor, come upstairs and find that I was on the floor. And the things like that, I didn't even sit up till I was a year old. So there was always this, second sight. I mean, my dad comes from a long line of unbroken Levitical background. They're Levite Jews. They're the rabbis. They teach. And again, she's been put out, and she can't move. She can't do anything. And so when she comes round, her daughter's gone from the garden. How the hell did she do that? She said, I often wondered if you'd dug holes under the fence. I thought, well, not in that time, I didn't, no. It's too small. And then I was found in Farnborough, RAF Borough, where the RAF men from about half a mile nearly. Still a long, long way for a tiny child.
Did you walk that, or were you taken there?
No, I've got no memory. I was taken. And all I remember is sitting on the side of the Busk Crescent, or one of the little roads up there where they live, not knowing where on earth I was, because I was too tiny.
I wonder why they took you there. How very bizarre.
I know it is. And then Mother would get on her bike and charge all round the place looking for me, and say 9 times out of 10 she'd find me over there. She'd get hold of me and put me on the little bike seat, me in the back. There were times when she smacked my legs. I think the tension was so bad. Something's happening and I don't know what it is. And then I had bedroom visitors as well that came in the night and through the wall in their robes, and they would bring unusual toys, but toys that you used your mind. It was fascinating to be able to make something move that you weren't actually physically touching. Then another time they'd come and they'd make my bedroom wall into a cinema screen, and they'd show me, I suppose, war things and various things so advanced that I've got no idea what all that's about. Not at all. Again, I had no idea at that early age what it was they were trying to tell me. Then they brought a triangular thing, same kind of thing as a orb. For a while, when they did bring them, that was sort of fun. I didn't feel really frightened of them.
And was that the greys as well as this being in the road?
Just these figures in long robes. And they'd walk again right through, it'd be through my parents' bedroom, and they'd disappear. again, say to 5 years old, and I thought, well, I'll get down in the grass, they won't see me, crawling along on elbows, and then all of a sudden there's this creature sort of standing in front of me. He was a reptilian. He had scales, probably a browny greeny colour. The only thing I could connect it with was a tortoise. Back in those days, we hadn't got television, no books on it, nothing like that. When they took me, dragged me across the ground, and hurt my knees, I remember, took me by the arms, and we went under the disc, which had a tube, and the tube opened up, the door opened, we went inside, and it shut. It was totally black in there, could not see a thing. But they worked very nicely in dark conditions. And we went up, the field going up, whether the craft itself took it, I don't know. We went up, and then when I came into this round room, there were consoles now, coloured lights all dotted around in. And they stripped my clothes off, and they took this instrument, well, they threw me onto a gold, metally feeling on it, and then they took this very sharp instrument, and I've still got the scars on my leg. They dug this thing into me, and I suppose this was a call card, definitely.
Do you think they were taking some skin samples?
So I've got more scoop marks than skin. Really, yeah, it's all everywhere you want to look, I've got scoop marks. I screamed and prowled the place down, and next thing I know, and I only had this about 4 years ago, I had a flashback. Suddenly out it jumped from my mind. Little kid, here I am, and I'm coming back home. I've made holes in my trousers. My mum used to make me special stuff as well to try and stop me hurting myself, but one thing or another, my knees were not meant to be dragged across the ground. Yeah. I can remember coming in and saying, Mummy, I've hurt my knees. She said, don't worry, love, she said, I'll go and get the first aid kit out of the bathroom. And she lifted me and put me on the draining board. The draining board was next to a large kitchen window. And then suddenly this craft... Oh, I was petrified. This thing was to be feared. I was frightened to bits. Pulled the curtain and I pushed myself back to the wall. They mustn't see me. Whatever happens, they mustn't see me. And then Mum came in. This particular playtime, there's this little figure laying on the grass, and I go flying over there to have a look, and I thought it was a little boy. It wasn't very well. I have a feeling it was a grey now. I knew that they were keeping an eye on me whilst I was in school. I had the feeling they were looking through the classroom windows. And then one day she used to talk about a fairy called Marilla. She said, these things are real, she said. It's not. And I did see something like a spark, something flying around. But I did see that also when the aliens used to take me. I used to see sparks of light, little tiny balls in the bedroom. Strange things that didn't upset me too much. I mean, there is activity actually right here. When I'm looking out the window, it's begun again. It stopped all year, and about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I started seeing what we call the blow-ups. Suddenly they come in dimensionally. Suddenly, boom.
Oh, right, so they like a pop-in, as if they've...
And they go across Surrey Heath, and they're coming down all the time.
I wonder what they're attracted. I wonder if it's a lot to do with the military and maybe what Qinetic are doing or
and there's also the animal welfare place over there.
Oh, right, because there were quite a lot of animal mutilations at one time.
Things that they're getting up to as regards this COVID and all this business. Believe that there's a connection there, definitely. Yeah, they're coming in and landing and coming in. There's not, I don't think, as many as I used to see. before all the COVID stuff started, I could see anything up to 8 in one night. Occasionally, one would fly in from the west, quite a large craft, come in, and it would still be going across.
There'd be a lot of reports of this in the papers.
It wasn't allowed to have anything in the paper. It wouldn't matter whatever happened here. It's got a defence notice or something. You'll get nothing in the paper, TV. You'll get nothing anywhere. We were coming back through from Ireland to Fishguard at about 1:15 in the morning. We travelled down to Haverfordwest and then we went there because it was about 18-20 foot oval.
Okay, and this was it. You were in Wales with this one.
Yeah, we were in a hotspot east on the coastal road long before the M4 was there. Sure. There's no recall.
I don't remember this story where you got burnt down one side.
Yes, it's a cigar. It's about 60 foot long.
Oh, that's huge, isn't it?
It was huge, and it was sinister, it was silent. It came in from the west. In mine as well, I had a naval telescope, and I was able to zoom in on it.
Yeah.
And then it went over the back, over Fern Hill.
When you had the burn on your face, had you been outside looking up at it?
Yes, I did. Well, the thing is, it came back. It went over the back of Fern Hill and went down, and we didn't see it I didn't see it for about 5 minutes. Then suddenly it rose up, and the white light that was on the front was the other way round, and the green light. This thing was at an angle as it came down the hill, and then it turned on its axis, and then it went down the gardens, straight gardens. Then it disappeared round the back. So I thought, I'll go out and 8:30, 8:15, something. It was October, and I stood in the garden in the front, and I waited and waited and waited, and all of a sudden, I lost almost my consciousness. I wasn't able to, had no strength whatsoever, and I was flat out on the dirt and everything.
Oh God, right, you saw like a collapse.
Yeah, just completely. Move, I was trying to move, I could not move. And I don't know if I was out or quite what happened exactly, but all I do remember was it took a long time without any strength at all to come into the front door.
Like 6 feet away?
Yeah, it took me, I should imagine, half an hour. Oh, it was a long time.
Did you see then the craft going over as you were in a state of collapse? Okay.
No, I think because it was black, well have been in the sky and I was not aware. That's the thing I feel. They did take me or did something to me. It took me another hour maybe to get upstairs. I was fully clothed and I was so exhausted that I climbed on the bed fully clothed and just fell asleep on the bed. It took me so much effort to do that. And when I woke up the next morning, I went to the bathroom and I found my face, like you see, it was the Friday night it happened. The Saturday I had it all down here and little tiny pimples. And of course the night before I thought, oh yeah, you know, I've got burnt from this.
So you remembered that you'd had the collapse after getting in,
yeah. Right. It went through Saturday and into Sunday and it was beginning to lighten. And I thought, oh, thank God for that. Sunday night it had cleared completely. Oh, what a relief. Yeah, it was one hell of a interaction, if you like, with the
Yeah.
whatever they are. But I felt very much that they were evil. That it was
Felt a sort of malevolence with it as it came over.
Yeah, it was silent and black. '79 it started, and it went on and on and on, really, really regularly. Two and a half, 3 years nearly.
Right, and I'm just going to turn around and show the wardrobes area where this happened, because this is the actual room that we're in.
Yeah, we started.
That's perfect. That's good.
Oh, good. Looks good from here.
So again, Hilary recalls through flashbacks a creche with hybrid babies being nursed, and also present were hybrid infants and human children playing together, usually with the taller greys in attendance. She witnessed there some female abductees holding babies, while others were interacting with the hybrid children there, teaching them to catch a ball, for example. The human children learned to play with the kind of toys that Hilary previously mentioned, those that were brought to her by the beings in the robes who came through the wall in her bedroom when she was only 3 years old. Now, I want to mention the health issue. This is a really important factor that keeps on keeping on with abductees, but also with the hybrid child and the ovary and the egg business. She was also lactating for years, even decades. For everybody else who's never had that experience, myself included, I do know that it can be really, really exhausting, really inconvenient, and that's the least of it. So the body is being forced into actions and activity that is not normal, and certainly it's not normal to be lactating for tens of years. I mentioned about health issues, and I know that we were talking about being taken interdimensionally. It changed the molecular structure.
Yes.
Tell us something about your own experience of issues.
So you're very, very dizzy when you come back, and you feel extremely ill, sometimes dreadful, dreadful heads, awful migraine, you feel absolutely out of sorts, and quite often for days. And you've got to try and make life, live, bringing up the children, terrible. And then you're getting flashbacks of being put on a circular table when you're up on the craft. I'm absolutely splayed out. I've got no clothes on. I'm manacled here, and on my feet. Spin this thing round. They watch how you cope with this as well. And they don't care whether your neck is creak right back or any of this sort of thing. So you come back absolutely sore from head to foot. Ache and bruising and scars, and it just goes on and on and on.
Have you ever seen anyone else whilst you've been taken at the same time that you're having examination?
Yes, I have. I saw somebody in a tank. I mean, it seemed to be... In fact, I found myself in it as well a bit later.
We need to take a break, just say.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. No, in this tank, they leave you suspended in this kind of gooey stuff.
Are we talking vertical or horizontal? Are you lying in it or...?
Yes, you're sort of lying in this stuff. And it's like as though they're teaching you to breathe underwater. You honestly don't think you're going to do this, and you really are frightened, but you do. You sink into it and you continue to breathe. And I've got flashbacks of coming in from space on a craft and going right down into the sea and actually going through to another base or something like that from the craft. But it all has an effect on your person.
Hilary reports that she had to deal with an extremely sore navel which wept an orange-brown goo which she was forever finding, and also having to wash it out on an almost daily basis. So Hilary, you're going to tell us about a being that you saw now around your own property.
Yes, bearing in mind that Sally and I are living on our own and that everything is shored up as well around our garden. We can't get anyone, we shouldn't have anybody coming in or out because we've got fencing, high walls and various things. It's the hours just changed, we're now into early April. Nice evening, I rushed into the lounge, I was going to put the TV on. I stopped dead because this thing is standing up against the window. Oh, he's got a helmet with a visor in it. And this is daylight, the nurses saw theirs in the dark. The sunlight's over this way and coming through the trees, and I can see the sunlight playing on his suit. Everything was matte.
Hilary stood there in shock, realising that what she was observing was no human, although she took some comfort from the fact that he had his right hand up and took it as a friendly gesture. She has no idea how long they both stood there until he started moving rapidly in a gliding movement, and then suddenly he was gone. He just vanished.
On the 18th of July, late in the evening, it was a Sunday, and they told me that they'd been buzzed by a UFO for months and months and months, and now they said, in fact they couldn't even talk, they were in such a dreadful state. I had to wait about 3 or 4 minutes before they could get themselves together. This thing had landed, and nurses in the nursing home said that this huge black figure was whizzing past their windows, and which takes a quarter of an hour normally to that hospital.
Which is what we saw there.
It was up there.
Okay.
Right, it's
1980.
1982, end of November. Beverly and Sally were in the lounge, as it was in those days. I was in the kitchen cooking the evening meal. Beverly came flying out, arms around my neck, nearly throttled me, white as a sheet, and she said, oh Hill, a huge black figure was in your window. But she said it went bang, bang, bang 3 times on the glass, and it was looking at Sally.
This time Hilary didn't get to see the black-clad figure, but interesting that her daughter is severely disabled and Beverly herself also has some disabilities. It seems they have an interest.
Then another time, about 09, they gave her, where she was at the old mill, as a
This is a
day,
special school.
yeah, as a place for severely autistic boys and girls in Godalming in Surrey. She was given the most beautiful silver star on a very, very fine, and a silver chain, lovely, very fine, and the tiniest little clasp you could. So I left it on her. Very close to Easter it was. I went in there that morning, and on the edge of the bed was this perfect circle, and right in the centre, and I can't say how perfect that was, with a little star right in the centre.
Oh, goodness.
And I knew they were coming for us.
No.
She could, no way could she do it. You know, she didn't have the dexterity to.
No.
So, you know.
Did she ever seem to be upset or have...
Yes, I did have times like that.
Yeah.
She'll often say, had bad dream, mummy. Had bad dream, and I sometimes wonder what, you know, because I think, well, she's on the pill because she's not producing eggs anymore. If they wanted her eggs, so what is it that they want to take from her? What are they doing? But then Robert never believed in anything like that. And when I tried to say to him, well, look, this is what's been happening to us.
But didn't he have an experience
Yes, he did.
himself?
Yes, because I was sworn to secrecy in 1964. Well, first of all, we had a sighting of 3 UFOs on the very first date. Not one, but 3. And my parents saw it as well. They were cigar-shaped craft. First of all, we were walking back from the bus stop. We'd been to see a film in Aldershot. We were walking down Hawley Lane, talking away, and suddenly, shh, and this pointed, and oh my God, cigar thing flying across the sky over towards Frimley, stops over on Sinehurst Estate, above the estate. And it's got gushing smoke coming out the back, and an orange light on the front and a white light on the back. It's very strange. It hung there for a while, and I think it turned round. Still the stuff gushing, cleared off then over into Frimley. So he said, wow. I said, yeah, that's something. Bearing in mind, he worked for the Royal Airforce Establishment. Then we went back to my parents' place. Can we take Shandy, our dog, take him for the last walk? Oh yeah, you can do that. So just as we're opening the door, another one flies across. And my mum and my dad both saw it, but my dad kept very silent because he was also working over there too. We got to the bottom of the road, and another one came along the Hawley Lane. Before that happened, the dog started to whine. You know, dogs are very sensitive. He was trying to get under the hedge, making this noise. And then I saw this wretched thing fly over.
Was it the same kind? Were they all cigar-shaped?
Even though we couldn't hear it, it had no sound, all the other ones, he could. And he was all right. As soon as it had gone, off he went. Took him to the field, and he trotted about in there and doing what dogs do. And
it's like a UFO rush hour, isn't it?
This thing happened at work. He was doing telemetry, and he was in contact with Woomera in Australia. And they were doing, because they made Black Arrow and Blue Streak missiles. I mean, everybody knows it now, but then it was secret. What happened with him was he picked up this very, very strange, I suppose, language. Something very strange. And he had no idea what on earth this was. And he was hearing this. It really shook him, because it was something that he couldn't recognise anything of this earth with it, nothing whatsoever. Then he found out that in Woomera they were about to launch one of these missiles when a disc came down and 2 spacemen came out of this thing, and they walked over where the rocket was, and they continued to stay there, and they completely stopped the rocket going on. I don't know if they did demobilise it, whatever it was later on. So this affected him quite a lot. Because he said, we met him that night after this had happened, and he said, something happened. If I don't speak to somebody, he said, I think I'll go balmy. I said, well,
so he heard some language.
Yeah.
And did he know that was something from another civilization?
Yeah, I think so. I think he got the feeling that it was not of this earth. And the fact that stuff was coming back from them saying that a craft had landed and...
Oh, he was getting that real time?
Yeah, he was getting that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So what sort of year would we be there?
1964. He said, you must promise me you'll keep this secret, if I don't speak to somebody, I'll go balmy. And this is what he told me. So I said, no, I won't speak of it ever, But so when Jenny Randalls went there years ago...
So the records place?
Yeah, the records place. They'd filmed all this as well. But she said, the very place in the filing wasn't there. It was missing.
Oh, what a surprise.
So, yeah, well, I thought, oh, shucks, Oh, surprise.
You think that those beings, or I don't know if you even know, talked the humans out of sending up a rocket, whether they disabled it? You don't know that?
No, possibly they disabled it, because there's been a lot of that kind of thing.
Yeah, there sure has.